Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 12 of the Longbox Chronicles. Tonight I will be taking a look at another series starring Spider-Man, but first I need to give you a quick history lesson. In 1986, DC Comics published a 4-issue miniseries called The Dark Knight Returns. It is the story of an aged Bruce Wayne as he tries once more to clean up a rather dystopian Gotham City. The book has been almost universally praised for its tone and style of storytelling. In 2006, Marvel Comics published a 4-issue miniseries called Spider-Man Reign. It is the story of an aged Peter Parker as he tries once more to clean up a rather dystopian New York City. The book received mixed reviews, with most critics saying it felt like a cheap knockoff of The Dark Knight Returns. However, tonight I am going to try my best to overlook the similarities and just review this as its own story. Let's see if this series was any good, shall we? Our story begins on a stormy night as three kids are tagging a wall. They are met up by the Rain, the city's military police force. They are able to tase one of the kids, but the other two escape. We cut to a local flower shop. Peter Parker, now 30 years older than we have ever seen him, is chewed out for messing up another customer's order. He is fired and sent on his way. On his way outside, Peter is knocked over by one of the fleeing kids. This gives the Rain officers a chance to tackle the kid and ask his name. The kid cracks off, so they begin to beat him in public. Peter tries to stop the beating, but gets elbowed in the nose and gets a broken arm for his trouble. We are then treated to a newscast announcing that New York is getting ready to celebrate a decade free of supervillain crime. To celebrate this, Mayor Waters has announced that a new laser defense system called the Web will soon be activated to continue to keep the city safe. At a press conference, Waters announces that he is repealing the electoral process so he can stay on as mayor and ensure that the Web is activated without a problem. Apparently, a city mayor has the power to do that. I will have to remember that if I ever decide to run for office. Peter Parker awakens after a dream involving him and a young Mary Jane. He hears a knock on the door and notices that his visitor is J. Jonah Jameson. After a long bout of rambling, Peter slams the door in his face. As he leaves, Jonah tells Peter to open the package he brought, citing that he has been holding on to it for a long time. Jonah goes outside and begins smashing a car with his walker, and a few Rain officers begin to brutalize him. As Parker opens the package, he finds his old camera and a black fabric wrapped around it. As Jonah continues to take his licks, Peter flies in behind the officers wearing the mask that was wrapped around the camera. The officers begin to focus on Parker because masks are outlawed in the city. Suddenly, the wit, the strength, and the reflexes from days gone by come screaming back as Peter easily hands the Rain officers their asses. Now with the Rain goons gone, Jonah tells Peter that the city needs his help once more. Peter answers by cold-cocking the old man and walking away. After finding out that Spider-Man is back and has just beaten two Rain soldiers, Mayor Waters starts looking for answers. His assistant, Edward Sachs, advises they must activate the Web sooner than scheduled and set some bait for Spider-Man. Sachs then takes Waters to see some new volunteers for the Rain. Waters questions this idea, but Sachs ensures that these new troops will have explosives implanted into them that will detonate if they defy orders. If they do their job, these 6 men will be released outside the Web and will never return. Back on the street, one of the kids from earlier is reading one of the newspapers that Jonah has been handing out. Since these papers are illegal, a Rain soldier confiscates it and backhands the child. A nearby witness named Casey informs her that there is someone who knows how to fight the Rain forces. She follows him down an alley where she finds an old church door. She goes in to see that it is J. Jonah Jameson giving a speech about how the city is corrupt and how the people must stand up for what is right. As he gives his speech, Casey uses his laptop to hack into the city's many video screens and begins to broadcast Jonah's message to everyone. It's at this time that Jonah tells the people to hunt down Spider-Man and giving Peter's address. In his apartment, Peter is packing his things to flee the city. He looks out the window and sees a growing crowd. The Rain troops fire a bazooka at the window. A bright flash later, and Peter is now in his Spider-Man costume and ready to dispense some justice. As Casey tries to keep the illegal broadcast going, he is brutally stabbed by Kraven the Hunter. Those volunteers from earlier have been dispatched to destroy Spider-Man. The 6 aging villains take turns wiping the floor with their old foe. Kraven gets his shot and takes Spidey's mask as a trophy. Amid the chaos brewing in the streets, Mayor Waters activates the Web, trapping everyone in the city with the 6 maniacs pounding on Spidey. Before the villains can finish the job, some familiar mechanical arms come in and save Spider-Man. Peter awakes to see that he has been dropped in front of the grave of Mary Jane. After being abducted by Rain officers during the demonstration, Jonah is brought before Mayor Waters. Waters says that he owns the city and pulls a knife on Jonah. But JJ is able to turn the tables and stabs Waters in the throat. Before the officers can react, Jonah plunges his knife into Sax, but the knife does nothing but reveal a black substance inside of Sax. Back in the graveyard, Peter hears a recorded message from Dr. Octopus. Before he died, Doc Ock gave his mechanical arms one final objective: to seek out and give themselves to Spider-Man. The arms then unload Mary Jane's casket. Peter clutches the corpse of his beloved and apologizes for her death. Since his blood was radioactive, all of his bodily fluids were also radioactive. Remember, kids, condoms save lives. Literally. After finally being restrained, Jonah demands answers, and Waters refuses to give him anything. Sax returns, and Jonah demands that he show everyone who he really is. Sax happily obliges and kills most of the people in the room to feed his hunger. Waters says that this wasn't part of the bargain, and the creature says that this was his plan the whole time. A news report covering the unveiling of the web witnesses an explosion and what looked to be bodies falling from the tower. It is very quickly learned that those aren't bodies, but blobs of black goo that is enveloping everyone that gets near them. The still nameless girl from before runs into one of the creatures and makes a run for it. Jonah asks Waters to do something, and Waters refuses to take any action. What is happening now will protect the city more than any other measure ever could. Sure, dude, I'll just take your word for it. Back on the street, the girl is cornered by the black mass heading towards her. She uses the bell in the church to cause the goo to retreat. She then mobilizes the citizens to fight for their city. As she rings the bell to rally the entire city, Peter finds his old costume in Mary Jane's casket and is ready to fight. Finally, after almost 20 pages of build-up, we finally get the revelation that Sax is Venom. Seriously, even someone skimming through the pages knew that this was Venom at least half a comic ago. But let's not let that drag this down, shall we? The Sandman and his troop of Rain officers approaches the girl and tells her to stop ringing the bell. She refuses, citing that the sound is keeping the Venom symbiote at bay. She takes off her mask, and the Sandman knows that he is looking into the eyes of his long-lost daughter. She turns herself into stone, and the troops open fire. The Sandman stops him, but isn't fast enough, and the guns smash her to pieces. Venom, sensing Spider-Man is near, orders Electro to shock the building, but it doesn't affect Spidey as he swings through a window and takes out Electro. Hydro Man shows up to offer support, and Spider-Man easily trips Electro into him, showing once more that Hydro Man is the shittiest villain in Spider-Man's rogues gallery. The Scorpion shows up to take his swing at Spidey, but Old Webhead is able to kick him out a window with almost no effort. As Sandman continues to fight off the symbiote, he tells his daughter to focus on reassembling herself. Suddenly, the symbiote runs from Sandman. He notices at this point that his daughter died in his arms. After easily taking out Mysterio and Kraven, Spider-Man finally comes face-to-face with Venom. As Venom whines about how Spidey abandoned him, the other symbiotes can be seen outside the building. As Spider-Man fights his way through the army of symbiotes, he breaks out a window and heads for the roof. Naturally, they all give chase. When they get to the roof, Spidey fights them off while still keeping his trademark wit about him with a rather disturbing joke. Before Spider-Man takes any more punishment, the Sandman shows up and gives Spidey a detonator. Spider-Man uses it to detonate the explosives that were implanted in his old foes, destroying the building and eliminating all of the symbiote. The next day, a shadowy figure is seen by Mary Jane's grave. He leaves a flower and says he will meet her again someday. And there we go, guys. Spider-Man Reign. Honestly, if you look past the occasionally ugly art and the sometimes sketchy writing, you will find a fantastic story worthy of anyone's comic book collection. So if you find a copy of this series somewhere, you might want to pick it up. As always, I need to mention that there was a lot of stuff in this comic that I didn't talk about. So that gives you even more reason to go out and find these books somewhere. And with that, we come to the close of the 1-year anniversary special of the Longbox Chronicles. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.